What is up, y'all? We are back for episode 6 of The Valley. We got a bunch of fake people on this show. Nia got a bunch of fake people around her, except for Kristen, Luke. Yeah, just about that. Everybody else is fake, but we're going to get into it. But if you're new here, hit subscribe. Do that right now. It's free of charge. Just do it right now so you'll be here every single week when we break this down. Also, thumbs up the video. Drop a comment down below. Share the video. I'm not going to waste too much more time because I got a lot to say. Janet, Jasmine. Yeah, y'all two are the ones that's getting it the most. But let's go. All right, so we pick back up where we left off, where Jasmine and Brittany were coming for Nia. So Jasmine is sitting in there caping for Brittany, as usual, talking about Brittany has been showing her entire life, and essentially it's not fair. Again, like I said last week, she chose to do that. Nia don't have to expose her life and her real life and everything that she doesn't want to have on TV. She don't have to do that. Yes, she's on a reality TV, and it is to be real. But certain things don't have to be put on TV. It doesn't. So they're weird for all of this. But Janet ends up trying to say that Nia glosses over Danny being drunk. And Jasmine is sitting there telling her to just be honest. Y'all didn't even give her a chance to be honest because y'all didn't ask her. Like she said, y'all waited for her to get up to then start talking about it. And it's like y'all acting like y'all not drunk either. It's just, they kill me with that. But Nia's saying both can't be true, that he can't be tired and drunk at the same time. And then Brittany was like, well, have you ever had any moments? Well, no, she ends up asking Brittany, she said, have you ever had any moments where you've essentially glossed over what Jax does and his bullshit? And of course, Brittany agreed, yeah, like I have. So what's the difference? But Jasmine claims that she's having Brittany's back because nobody else will, because Brittany is stupid. And what Brittany is talking about, nobody should have her back. Nobody should have your back either. Because in this instance, y'all are blowing something out of proportion that has nothing. Like, them being so mad about him being drunk when he's not in y'all's face. That's the whole thing. Granted, I'm not trying to invalidate how Jasmine feels about what had happened the previous time. But Danny is not around you. He's drunk and he's in the room with the door shut taking a nap. What is the issue? It'd be one thing if he was in your face and doing what he did, or being deliberate, who's being belligerent and just deliberately being a fool. He's not doing anything because he's in the room sleep. Whether he's drunk or not, sober or not, he's in the room sleep away from y'all. What is I don't get them. They're so weird. But Danny ends up waking up and comes in there, and Jasmine is sitting there saying that Brittany's saying that it's not fair that she shows her life and everybody else doesn't. We already talked about how stupid that is. But Daniel's confused about what's going on, obviously. And Nia ends up saying they're pretty much pointing to me and you about how we're basically hiding shit and we can have a conversation in the kitchen. So they go on off. But Nia ends up telling Brittany, too, that she understands and she hears her. I'm like, Nia, I don't know why you telling her that, because, like, fuck her. But they go in the kitchen. So Nia and Daniel are in the kitchen, and he's in there apparently drinking an energy drink. Nia low-key snaps on him for it, but she ends up going back in the room. He follows after her. She's getting overwhelmed, and he's trying to console her, and she just don't want to be touched. I feel her on that. When I'm going through some shit, don't touch me either. But she ends up running him through them trying to make her out to be some secretive person about his drinking or whatever. And she's saying, like, I said, like, two things can be true. You did have something to drink, but you also had a very busy day and you're tired. That is true. Like, both of that can be true. But Nia said, essentially, nobody even asked me, so I don't understand what the issue is. Like, she said, yes, like, you had too much to drink. And Danny's like, I don't know why you're saying I had too much to drink. And she's like, you did have too much to drink. Like, you drank a lot at the wine tasting, which is why you came back later on and you had a nap or whatever. Just own it. Nia is being real. She kept it real. Yes, he had a little bit too much to drink, but yes, he also was tired. Who the fuck don't drink? Like, people act like they don't have, like, people come home from work every single day. I don't, because I don't drink like that. Like, I'm about as sober as it gets. I'll have a drink every now and then. But people I know that have had a very long day at work, which is pretty frequently, I know a lot of people do, come home and have a drink or two. Whether that's wine, whether that's hard liquor, they do. What is the issue? And I guarantee you, the ones that are sitting here pointing fingers at him do it as well. Like, it's weird to me. But we get back to Janet. Janet is telling Brittany, Jasmine, and Michelle about Daniel pretty much coming in the pantry and taking a swig of Casamigos and then passing out later. She's trying to like paint this image of him as essentially having an alcohol problem. Jasmine ends up saying, "We know he has a problem with it, but they won't talk to us about it." And it's like, why should they? Why should they? Look at how y'all acting now, so y'all can go sit and talk about him behind their back. Like, you're weird. You're not real friends. Y'all not good people. I wouldn't tell them shit either. But Janet ends up saying she empathizes with Nia dealing with somebody who could possibly be going through addictions because, I mean, that's essentially what she's experienced in her past relationship, but hiding the imperfections come off as fake. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. People that feel like they are obligated to know every little detail about every single person in their life that is in their life, y'all are weird. They don't have to tell you their business if they don't want to tell you that. Like, it's just weird to me. But Nia, she is crying essentially now to Danny about Brittany making her out to be essentially not being real when Nia is so supportive of Brittany and all of the shit that she's been going through. And Nia says essentially it's just hurtful for her to be sitting here talking bad about me behind my back. And Nia says too that her and Daniel are more reserved and don't air out their dirty laundry and they handle their shit behind closed doors. And it doesn't have to be everybody else's problem. I'm like, I fully agree with her on that. Because that's me. I'm the type of person, when I go through shit, I don't be unloading my shit on people. I don't. I'm the type of person that likes to deal with my own shit by myself. Like, I like to go through I'm that way in general. I've gotten better with asking questions, like asking for help, like in my job. It kind of spilled over into my job where I'm the type of person I will try and figure shit out myself, go through all the trial and error until I get to the right solution. I'm the type of person that don't like asking for help, which also translates into my business, like my personal life. I don't like unloading my business and my personal traumas and issues that I have onto other people. So I fully get her on that, but we'll get to that later on. But they essentially go through that. Nia ends up saying that Daniel can give her a hug. He gives her a hug and consoles her. But we get back to Janet saying that they should also tell Nia that if she's dealing with Daniel's drinking problems, we're here for you. Why the fuck should she confide in y'all? Y'all have not shown her that y'all are trustworthy and have her best interest at heart. Because if that's the case, y'all would have pulled her to the side, asked her questions, and let her do it. But y'all sitting here trying to browbeat it out of her while sitting and talking shit about her and her husband behind her back. Like, come on. But the next day, everybody's pretty much packing up and everything. So they ended up leaving, and we'll move to the next scene, which was Michelle hiking with Sheena. And Michelle was pretty much talking about how her and Sheena have gotten close over the years. The girls are friends. Sheena had, I guess, bought a house from Michelle. And Sheena's been going through her divorce, has gone through divorce in the past, as we all know. And she claims that Sheena's a good person. That's up for debate. But Sheena ends up asking about Aaron, and Michelle pretty much lets her know they get along well, but Jesse being a disaster in Santa Barbara and her having to come back and tell Aaron about it kind of had Aaron getting cold feet. She ends up pretty much stating along the lines like, Jesse was sitting there telling me and calling me names that no man should ever say to a woman, let alone the mother of your child. And her and Aaron had a conversation about everything that had happened. And Aaron pretty much told her, I love you. I love Isabella, but I can't deal with no crazy ex-husband like that. Pretty much stating like, if this shit don't fix, I got to go. So they show a flashback of them having that conversation, and that's pretty much what he was saying. Like, it's kind of hard to accept because Jesse's going to be here forever because he is the father of your child. But Michelle ends up saying, like, it's better that they're not together. Or, well, he's saying that it's better that they're not together. That they're not together if nothing changes. Pretty much echoing what he just said. Michelle also then says that it's going to be hard starting all over again because of the negativity. And now she finally has somebody that actually loves her for her. And it's devastating that they might even break up. But she ends up telling Sheena that Aaron's been helping her get through the tough time or whatever. And she loves him and yada, yada, yada. And it's like, I can't. Something about me just cannot feel for her. Because it's like, you did this to yourself. If you didn't want to be with Jesse, and you know you didn't want to be with Jesse, let's just keep it real. Because Sheena even said it. Like, the smile that you have on your face when you sit and talk about Aaron, I've never seen you have that when it comes to Jesse. And she's sitting there smirking and laughing and saying that she's been faking it. You knew that you weren't happy. You should have broken it off with Jesse before you even started cheating. It would have been so much easier. I'm pretty sure Jesse probably would have respected it. He wouldn't have liked it, but he wouldn't have made your life the way that he's been trying to make it now. I mean, in my opinion, rightfully so, because I mean, you cheat on me, I'm gonna give you the business too. But it could have all been avoided if you were just upfront and honest with him and say, look, it's just not gonna work. And then y'all separate while trying to get your divorce. And if you want to go have relationships with other men while y'all are separated, you have that liberty to do so, as he does as well. But it would have been a lot more respectful if you would have given him that opportunity instead of embarrassing him by cheating on him. Like, I can't feel bad for Michelle. But we get to Jesse's. Jesse's at his house with his life coach, Scott, who we find out has also been pretty much helping them with therapy, marriage counseling, all of that. He's pretty much leaned on him since that and has continued to work with him through present day. I'm like, well, Scott, you need to do a little bit more work because Jesse ain't wrapped too tight. But Jesse ends up stating that he's mad at himself about how he had handled everything in Santa Barbara, and he wants to understand why he's so easily triggered. And Jesse ends up saying to the life coach that he was thinking about the grief and everything that he had, and Michelle admitting to cheating on him, and it's just hurtful. And he says that there's no way that he said to her, wait, she said that there was no way that you weren't. Yeah, he tells him that Michelle pretty much stated, like, there's no way that you weren't cheating when you were out here with your friends. Like, when you were away from me and you were drinking. So pretty much projecting her shit onto him. And that's what the life coach said, is projection, which it was. But Jesse ends up telling the life coach about him telling her that she was a cheating whore. And the life coach pretty much says that makes you look bad because essentially, like, you were the one that was done wrong. But when you start doing stuff like that, it makes people think or completely forget about what was done to you first, because you're crossing a line that is now, I mean, it's disrespectful. Yeah, you're getting your feelings off, but there's a way to do it. And calling any woman a cheating whore, especially the mother of your child, whether it can be true or not, it's just not it's not the ideal thing to do. But basically the life coach is saying, like, her doing that, like getting you riled up and then you doing what you're doing, it's a brilliant play because nobody's thinking about her cheating anymore. They're thinking about you calling her a cheating whore, which is true. But the life coach pretty much states and gives him a nice analogy, like, think of your life as a garden. Your attention is the water. So basically, what you want out of your life, you need to pay more attention to that. You need to put more of your energy into the positive things instead of the negative things. So that's basically what he's telling him, which he tells him essentially you need to hold yourself accountable and stop acting like a dick. But Jesse ends up saying that he wishes that there was an easier solution. Scott ends up telling him, essentially screaming into this pillow 3 times. And that's what he does, but Jesse claims he feels better. But we get to Kristen and Luke. There's a lot of filler scenes, truthfully. But Kristen and Luke, if you would have asked me 2 years ago if Kristen would be my favorite person on the show, I'd laugh at you. Because I ain't ever been a fan of Kristen. I love Kristen on the show. The redemption arc is perfect. Her and Luke are a bright spot in this cast. Like, there's not too many likable people. These two, as well as Nia, and Jason to an extent, but we'll get into Jason next week, though. It seems like we're about to get into Jason's story for real. But Kristen, Luke, and Nia, those are my 3 favorites right now. But they are at their new house. They're loving their house. They got a lot of space for them. They have a guest room. They have an extra bedroom, which they're hoping to do it for a nursery, which, as we all know, as Kristen is now pregnant, they're able to do that. So shout out to them. But she ends up saying, like, they're renting right now because they're still unsure where they want to live. But we get a transition scene to Luke's confessional, pretty much stating that this house is the first step in his plan for their future, aka marriage and kids and, everything. So Jasmine comes walking in because they're outside by the pool. She comes walking in, didn't knock, didn't ring the doorbell. No manners. But she ends up finding them in the back. Kristen shows her around and everything. The dog's sitting over there humping the pillow, but they head back out to the pool again, and they sit down and talk. Jasmine claims that she wants to apologize to Nia because she felt bad. Okay, we'll get to you later on, Jasmine. But Luke pretty much states, is it uncomfortable for you to just ask Nia if Danny was drunk or when he was taking a nap? And Kristen was like, yeah, he was just tired. And Jasmine's like, maybe he was. But then Jasmine gets her confessional saying, how tired can you really be if you're just standing there in a booth all day and just sitting around talking? Pretty much trying to downplay what he does for his job. First of all, voiceover, I'm sure there's a lot of work that comes into it, because not only that, he's not just standing in front of a booth. He's memorizing lines. He's talking. Who knows how many takes he has to do that. And talking, I talk all day for work. And then sometimes I come home and do these videos. Talking takes a lot of energy out of you. Not only that, he drove back up there after he did his day of work. Who wouldn't be tired? Like, Jasmine was blowing me. Like, you like, it's like she's too fixated on Daniel to make this storyline for her. That's what I'm getting from it. And it's weird. It's very weird. But Jasmine ends up saying that. Jasmine ends up also saying that she's triggered about the whole Halloween thing. And she ends up saying, like, being in a queer relationship, it makes a lot of straight people question if it's serious or not. And they feel like they can do whatever when it comes to y'all being out in public. Which, I mean, I hear her on that. I can see where she's coming from. I mean, I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to invalidate her feelings in regards to what had happened. But, like, this situation, blown out of proportion. Especially this particular situation, blown out of proportion. But Kristen ends up saying that if Luke, she pretty much makes an analogy. If Luke had to leave, he came back, he was tired, took some shots. If y'all asked me where Luke had went, I wouldn't pretty much say, oh, he's drunk. I would say that he's tired and went to bed. Even though he did take shots, he's tired and went to bed. Luke said exactly. So why does it matter if somebody's drunk and falls asleep? Because everybody else does it too. I'm like, exactly. They just blowing shit out of proportion. But Kristen then talks about Brittany trying to have this girls' dinner to, like, clear the air with Nia and everything. And Jasmine says she felt bad having Nia cry and she didn't want that. But I'm like, what did you expect? Doing what you did, you were fake and very phony, and you're supposed to be a friend of hers. Why would she not cry? But we get a scene of Luke and Danny. They're out looking and shopping for rings or whatever. Kristen wants an emerald ring, but she also told Luke, essentially, if you spend more than $10,000 on this ring, I'm going to chop your balls off. Luke, you got a good one. Because most women want you to spend that dough on that ring. Whereas with a ring, I feel like over time, you're going to spend more money because it's going to get bigger. You're going to enhance what it is. But good for Kristen, being frugal, being smart, good with your money. But Danny pretty much asked him, like, when are you planning to do this? And Luke says some point later on this year. Luke is in a confessional, pretty much talks about how him and Kristen, how he had came to this decision to actually make Kristen his forever wife. And he talks about the ups and downs that they've had, the highs, the really low lows. And it just hit him that one day when they were on a road trip with 4 dogs. And it was a long road trip. He realized since Kristen was able to do that with him, he's never had that in his life. And he was like, yeah, this is the love of my life. Good for them. But we get to Jesse's house. Jesse's there with Isabella. Michelle ends up FaceTiming Isabella about this key that she was looking for. The key was in the damn fridge. And she comes and brings it over to him. Or brings it over to Isabella. She's sitting there talking to Isabella while Jesse's standing there in the door. She's sitting there trying her best to not even talk to him. But that cracked me up. But we'll move past that scene. But we get to Brittany's house for this dinner. The chef's in there preparing dinner. Brittany's claiming it's important to talk about what happened in Santa Barbara so we can move past it because she loves Nia and she don't want to fight with Nia. I'm like, you just a hater. Like, it's funny how you saying this shit now. Like, you a hater. Like, you just jealous of Nia. That's what it is. They all just... The ones that have an issue with Nia, in my opinion, I feel like they're jealous of her. That's just how I feel. But everybody starts arriving. Nia ends up getting there, and she feels the fake energy, just like I could feel it coming from this TV. She's like, damn, am I here for my funeral? Because essentially everybody got black on, except for her and Kristen. But Kristen then arrives afterwards. They all sit down. The chef is passing around caviar. They like the caviar. But after they finish eating it, it's this awkward silence. So Brittany then breaks the awkward silence, saying that she'd like to address Santa Barbara because she loves Nia, and that's why she wanted to do this, to clear the air. And she ends up saying that she's sorry for how it happened, and the drinking might have brought the worst side out of her. I started laughing. I said, oh, y'all's whole issue with Nia hiding Danny's drinking is your excuse now. You were drinking. Now you have an excuse as to why you acted the way you did. But you then want to sit here and paint Danny out to have some drinking problem. So, Brittany, if you're drinking, and if I'm remembering correctly, didn't Jax mention this about her too? 2 things can be true. Jax has problems, but Brittany, it sounds like you got some problems too. You want to start talking about other people's problems? Let's talk about yours. Let's address yours. Like, What? Like, that blew me. I'm like, you gonna sit here and talk about him and his drinking, but it sounds like you got a drinking problem too. But Jasmine ends up apologizing for raising her voice and said that she shouldn't have done that because they were building a relationship. Yeah, you shouldn't have raised your voice, but also you shouldn't have been talking shit about your friend behind her back. You should have addressed that shit in her face. But Mia starts getting emotional. I said Mia. Nia starts getting emotional, saying that she hasn't been able to stop thinking about everything that had happened. And it was just hurtful that they waited for her to get up and leave, for them to start talking shit about her, essentially. And they could have just said it to her face. I said, exactly. But they all agree, essentially, and Brittany ends up giving some bullshit excuse again. Jasmine then brings up Danny's incident from months ago, and that's what triggered her, and she felt like Nia wasn't being honest. If you felt that way, why didn't you ask her the question when she was there? Like, that's where it all comes down to. If you felt that way, then you should have said something. But she was fake. But Nia ends up saying, yeah, there were weeks when, she says in her confessionals, there was weeks when they weren't good. Her and Danny weren't good because of the thing that he had did with Jasmine and what's her girlfriend's name? Melissa. She said that, like, I never said that what he did was right. I said it was a mistake, and we just worked through it. We went through group therapy, individual therapy, marriage counseling, but they all got back. They got back to a better place. And Michelle ends up saying people were just noticing the pretending about everything being perfect. It's not about pretending. It's about keeping what they're going through in-house. They're in a marriage. Y'all not in the marriage with them. They don't have to share everything, every little detail that's going on in their marriage with y'all, especially when it comes to problems. If she wanted advice, she could ask y'all. I wouldn't be asking them for advice, but that's where I'm just like, I'm fully on Nia's side. I just don't get it. But Nia ends up talking now, and she's pretty much opening up. She says there's a lot of shit that y'all don't know about me, where I come from, which makes me question, like, why don't y'all ask her questions? Like, because Nia seems very open, but she's just not the type of person that's just going to start talking about all her issues. And it's like, if y'all really wanted to know, you could have asked her. But then again, they didn't. But she starts to open up about where she came from, how her life prior to, just her growing up and stuff. She grew up homeless as a kid with her mom. And Kristen said, like, I had no idea that she'd been going through this. And if anybody has anything negative to say about her, they're going to have to go through me. I said, exactly. Kristen's the only real friend that she has. Like, let's keep it real. But Nia starts talking about it, everything, saying that she had to sleep in the car. Life wasn't easy for her, but it made her stronger. And she chooses to be the light and bring kindness and positivity with her. And she would rather bring that into other people's lives than to be dwelling on the negative shit that happens and has happened in her life. If only they thought like she did, they wouldn't be miserable. Like, let's keep it real. Like, let's keep it so real. But she ends up saying, like, I choose to be positive and not allow things that I've been through to pretty much take over my life, which is what you're supposed to do. Like, people that be in depressive states, and as we all know, she went through depression last season, and I don't know if she's still going through it, but you can't allow things like that make you upset to consume your whole life, because if you do allow it, it's going to do that, and you're going to be a miserable person. Nobody wants to be around somebody like that. And her choosing to be positive, that's beautiful. They could learn from her. But she also then says, like, she had to, that's pretty much how she had to be to survive. And she's not going to be negative to people when she has so much to be grateful for. And if they want to say that she's hiding things because she chooses to be positive, they can do that. I said, exactly. But Jasmine thanks her for sharing. And Nia says, like, I understand y'all's perspective, but if y'all have any concerns about anything about me in my life, you can ask me to my face. Literally. Brittany says, I love seeing this side of you. I hate people like this. Like, I do. Why do I have to show you and talk about all the things that I'm going through for you to love the person that I am? That is so weird. People that want to see people when they're hurt or crying or going through shit, that is so weird to me. Like, why can't you just like her in the positive light that she is? Because you're going through shit in your life, she got to be going through it too. Like, it's just weird. It's weird. But Janet ends up saying that she's happy to see, and she's saying this in her confessionals, she's saying that she's happy to see Nia opening up about her and Daniel going through their things and working through them, but the behavior still hasn't stopped. I said, here this bitch goes. I don't like her at all. I try not to call women bitches, but she's a bitch. But Janet She then starts talking about the Pantry situation and how it made her feel uncomfortable because it's clear Daniel didn't want people to see him drinking, and she's in there and she wanted to not be a part of it, just like he didn't want anybody else to be a part of it, and she didn't want to know something that everybody else didn't know. So Janet ends up saying essentially that she was in a relationship with somebody who had an addiction, pretty much insinuating that Danny has an addiction, an alcohol addiction, which Nia shut that shit down. She said that's a big statement to make, and if you have a problem with his drinking, and she couldn't even finish her statement because here comes Jasmine interjecting, and Nia was pretty much saying like she just compared him drinking to somebody that she knew having a drug and alcohol addiction. And Jasmine's standing down now saying, well, I didn't hear that. I didn't know that she said it. That's why you need to shut up. Stop trying to interject, Jasmine. Jasmine's trying to, you can tell Jasmine's just trying to have a moment on the show. Like, let's just keep it real. But Nia, she ends up saying Daniel doesn't do drugs. Like, you comparing it to somebody who has had an addiction with drug or alcohol, whatever it is, you're off base. And Janet's apology is the worst thing that she's ever heard. I said exactly, because it's not one. But Janet then says, when it feels like you're hiding something, it's not great. She says, God forbid I compare a painful situation that I've been through to Nia's perfect husband. I said, because it's not the same, dumbass. Like, you're sitting here trying to make it seem like he has a, whether he has one or not, that's not confirmed. And for you to pretty much compare somebody who had an addiction to your suspicions of somebody having one, that's rude. It's like what they said, it's damaging, and it's very dangerous to do that, especially when you don't know it to be true or a fact. But Janet ends up telling Nia that she wanted to tell her, but Nia said that, wait, she said she wanted to tell her, and Nia ends up saying that it makes sense. Oh yeah, she said, I just wanted to tell you about the whole Pantry situation, and Nia was like, yeah, it makes sense, but everybody was drinking. Kristen ends up saying that this is something that we can all do. If there's a problem, go to that person. It's funny that she said that, because they all pinky swear and do the whole pinky swear hand thing. And Nia ends up getting, did she get at this point? No, Kristen ends up saying that she doesn't believe that they'll follow through with this pinky swear to not be talking shit behind people's back, which they didn't. They literally didn't do it. It happened in like 2 minutes, and then they went back to being fake. Because Nia's Uber gets there, she says her goodbyes, she leaves, and like clockwork, here go Janet and Jasmine being fake. Nia peeped, she said in her confessional, she peeped that Janet's not being a friend. She feels like her and Daniel's progress is being thrown in her face, and they're weaponizing it, which is exactly what they're doing. But they then state that they feel, and I'm talking about the girls in there, they feel like it was positive. Jasmine says, well, I still feel like, I mean, when someone's crying in front of me, I just can't do that. I don't know. Me personally, when people cry in front of me, I get uncomfortable because I'm not a crier. I don't cry. And when people do cry, I do feel uncomfortable because I don't know how to console people when they're crying. But Jasmine, like, what the hell? Like, Kristen said exactly what I said, because she didn't even finish her statement. Kristen says, you still feel what? I'm like, exactly. Finish her statement. So Janet then finishes it for her. And where am I at? I'm losing my notes, y'all. Kristen ends up saying that she literally, wait, hold on. Where did I go? Kristen ends up saying, yeah, like what I just said. And Jasmine ends up saying, I feel like Nia felt that this whole situation was about her and Daniel's relationship. And Kristen's like, she literally just poured her heart out to y'all and explained why she's keeps certain things behind her and not bringing it to the forefront. Like, what the fuck are y'all not getting? That's basically what Kristen's doing. And Janet then says that Nia is still being very defensive. I can't stand her. Kristen ends up saying it's a dangerous thing for you to call somebody an alcoholic when you don't know that to be true. Exactly. Jasmine ends up saying, well, she didn't say that. She said it triggered her. She was making implications. We're not dumbasses. We're all grown adults here. They're grown. We all know what she was putting down. Like, come on. Kristen's not stupid. It's the gaslighting for me. That's what it is. They're trying to make Kristen seem like she's off base for stating what she's stating when it was true. It's clear as day that Janet was trying to imply that Danny has an alcohol addiction problem. Like, it's weird. But Jasmine then starts getting all hype and stuff, talking about the Danny situation again. I said, you fake as hell. Because here you are doing exactly what you just claimed that you wouldn't do anymore. And it's like, it's just so weird. But Jasmine is saying that she wants to talk to Danny about how she feels, and how she feels like if somebody did what he did to her, to Nia, how would he feel about that? Which, I mean, I understand that. Like I said, I'm not trying to invalidate her feelings in regards to that matter, because Danny definitely was wrong for doing what he did to her. But it's just like, Jasmine, you're trying to let that consume everything when you can literally just address that shit with Danny. And if he hasn't done it again since then, either try to move forward or don't be around him. Like, if that triggers you that bad, don't be around him. You don't have to be around him. And it's just like, yes, he was wrong for doing that and everything, but if he's not doing it right now, I mean, what you want her to do? What do you want her to do? Every time she's around, every time y'all are around each other, Nia got to sit on his hands or whatever. Because, I mean, if he's not touching you, he's not touching you. Now, if he was, it'd be one thing. But Jasmine says she wants to move past it, but she doesn't know if she's ready. I mean, I guess. I get it. But Nia, she's back home with Daniel. She ends up telling him that she's exhausted. As am I. That's why I'm stumbling over my words yet again. But they're in bed. She ends up filling him in on everything that's going on. She ends up saying that everything ended fine, but it's just emotionally draining. She also then mentions Janet, talking about how they should be able to come to her if they feel some type of way about Daniel's drinking or whatever. And then reference the ex's addiction. And Daniel makes a face like, what? And he says Janet yet again is making assumptions that are not true and throwing them out to be facts, which is true. She did that shit last season. But Nia ends up saying that she let her know it's not appropriate and she feels like Janet understood her. She didn't. But Janet and Jason, they're at home talking about it too. And Janet ends up saying that she feels like Nia can't continue to protect Danny when he's doing something wrong, when it's affecting Jasmine's relationship. And it's the hiding situation. She's acting like Nia's doing something wrong by keeping her private conversations with Danny private as they're in a marriage. She's already, as we already hear, she's already addressed the situation with Danny. From what we understand, what had happened with Jasmine has not happened again since then. So what more is there to do? If it continued to happen, that's one thing. But Janet pretty much states like the activity and the behavior might be worth questioning, which, I mean, I get it, but is it your place to question? I don't think so. But Nia then brings up the pantry situation with Danny. Danny's laughing it off with a nervous laugh, which Nia clocked it later on. But she's telling him not to laugh and take it seriously, because if you are drinking behind closed doors, it looks like you are hiding something, which is why people would be questioning it. And Danny says, like, it wasn't that I was hiding it. That's just where the bottles were. So I picked it up and took a shot. And Nia's like, with the door closed. And he's sitting there trying to like play it off a little bit. But Nia ends up saying that she doesn't like the nervous laugh that he did. And Danny's sitting there trying to deny it, saying that he was just in shock about it. But Jason ends up saying at the end of the episode that he feels like he should talk to Danny because getting blackout drunk is just a different animal, and now it's starting to hurt other people. Next week is interesting because Kristen's little comment in their preview about Jason trying to give people advice about some shit, and she started talking about his marriage. I started cracking up because it's funny because now Janet gonna be in the hot seat too, because it sounds like your husband might be stepping out on you. It's funny how it's always funny how people start getting in other people's business when you need to worry about what's in your own house. Worry about that. But if y'all got this far and thugged it through me, falling all over my words, missing my notes, thumbs up the video, subscribe if you're new, drop a comment down below, and I'll see y'all next week. Peace.